learning to fight was a priority for my dad. Like we had the like straw punching bags in the barn and stuff. So 10 rounds in the book. Each chapter is about ways to fight in the world, not physically, but spiritually. How do we overcome some of the things like fighting for your kids, trying to protect them from all the things? Like, how do I not let my kids grow up to be, addicts or end up in prison or things that because you see amazing families. I've seen it, like amazing families, and then it's like, what happened? What happened? Then fighting cancer. So my brother has cancer, like fighting for your health, fighting for your sanity, fighting for just all of these things. And it's like, what does the Bible say about it? American defunders, or Not My Money. Those are kind of the two I'm playing with. But what it is about, it's actually a financial book. It's not like a religious book. It's about our industry from a financial standpoint. Where's the money, and how are they using that money in ways that are politically driven? There are like Vanguard, BlackRock. There are these huge, conglomerates that own the majority of American money. Like we literally are investing it. We are literally giving it to them. And then they have it. They are reaping the rewards of that. And they're using it to fuel the fight that we're fighting. It's like if I said to you, are you for funding the war in Ukraine, yes or no? Well, okay, you would have an answer. Yes, fund the war. No, don't fund the war. With your investments, there's the exact same question.
Welcome back to My Living Media Podcast. My name is Paul Gagliardi. I'm the president of My Living Media, and I'm here with an amazing person and financial planner, insurance agent, author on the radio.
Yes.
And a mother of two boys, 7 and 10.
Yes.
Other than that, you're not busy at all.
No.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome here, and we're really happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Are you from Florida?
So, no, I grew up in the Midwest in Southern Indiana. Did you ever see the movie Hoosiers?
I did.
The basketball movie. I went from kindergarten to my senior year there.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my hometown. If you watch that movie, it's just like, that's home.
Farm girl?
Farm girl, yeah. So I grew up on a farm. I mean, when I was a kid, I always had horses and ponies, and my dad was a farmer. However, when he was a teenager, his father died of lung cancer when he was about 19. So he had to take over this big dairy farm, and his little brother and neighbor got in a really bad accident, a tractor accident, and the neighbor kid was killed. So that no more tractors. My dad farmed with horses.
Wow.
Yeah, so we like plowed everything like horse and rein. So it was really old school. So my upbringing was by definition hard work. Like there was like up at 4 a.m, I would milk goats and then come in, get ready for school, and then like come home, milk the goats again, feed all the animals, like farm, do whatever we needed to do. So like everything that I've done since I left the farm has just been like easy.
It's so funny. I look back at those times. I kind of had a background. We woke up early and we worked. We were, you didn't lay around our house.
My kids have no idea. They're ridiculous. Like they live in a totally different world, which that's what we want. We want our kids to have it better than we did. That's like part of evolution or evolving. And but yeah, they have no idea.
But aren't you so grateful for growing up that way? I mean, honestly, the work ethic and just that whole being engaged in what you're doing, and I think it teaches a lot about being humble and integrity, character, all that stuff.
I really think that it's so educational because like now, back then I didn't know what organic was. I didn't know what pesticides or things that are harmful. We didn't talk about that. We just lived that way. Like we grew all of our own food. We butchered all of our own meat. Like we full on lived off the land and the farm. And so now with my kids, I'm like, they just have no clue. They think like everything comes from Publix. It's like there's a man in the back at Publix. He's just back there like making all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it is. But yeah, there's it's a beautiful way of life.
I grow avocados myself. In San Diego, I grow avocados. I got some apples and oranges, but mostly avocados.
You would think that I would have like this green thumb, but I'll be honest, I don't. I don't.
Well, with other things you do, because I was looking through a few of these things in your website and picked up a few things, but Before diving into the world of financial advising, what inspired you to pursue this career? And I also
Yeah.
know that insurance plays a big part in that for you. And could you share a little bit about that, your personal journey, and
Hmm.
what motivated you to do
Yeah.
this?
Sometimes like your career path just kind of finds you. And I went to college at Northern Kentucky University, which is near Cincinnati, Covington, Kentucky. It's right across the river. And then um, graduated and started with the company HSBC Bank, which was at that time HSBC was the world's largest bank, and they were really pushing to get into the United States or to have a presence here. So I was on a management track with them, did very well. Was relocated to Lexington, Kentucky, and loved it there. Excuse me, became a manager, grew a branch. We went from like 30 million to 60 million in the couple years that I was there, and was doing awesome. And I was in line to get promoted, but they wanted to send me to like Pittsburgh or more like Northeast. And I wanted to be somewhere warm. I just didn't want to be
Right.
cold all the time. So, and also, I was reading about this bubble because then I was in the world of finance, like refinancing part of the total subprime like disaster. I was in the heart of it. That's what I was doing. And I'm like, there's no way this triple wide, which by the way is like 3 single wide trailers lined up door to door, then you just duct tape or bind them together however you want. That these things in the hills of Kentucky were going to keep appraising, for 20% more than they were last year. I'm like, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And I was headhunted by a company down here in Florida that was in Palm City. And I just went for it and took the job and came here thinking that I was going to escape the whole real estate crash, and got here. And I think Kentucky and Florida were like two of the worst states. So I left one for just a different set of. So up there it was a refinance, down here it was like new purchase, new build. So but it brought me to Florida, and I don't regret that. But then how did insurance come in? Well, I had a 1-year contract with that company. I knew I just wanted out of that market altogether, that industry. It just didn't seem stable. So I went in, I got bought into this idea that people were retiring and continuing to retire. And that felt more of a stable industry for me. So also at that time, my grandmother I was really, really close to my grandmother, who was in her 80s. So I already had a lot of experience with like Medicare, Social Security, just by helping her
Yep.
with stuff. And she became sick with cancer at the same time that I was interviewing with this company, Bankers Life and Casualty. And they were just, the whole presentation really spoke to my heart because I knew. I knew about it. I was living it at that moment. Like long-term care is a really big deal. And when someone that you love is in those last 2 years of their life and they're, becoming disabled essentially, like it's difficult. It's difficult to actually physically care for them. And I was young. I was 28 at the time, like,
Josh.
and I lost 15 pounds, and I've always been a smaller person. Like it's so hard on you. So I knew the problem because I lived it. And so it just became very natural for me working with them. I already had a passion for it. And then at that time it was also I got my insurance license September of 2008. If anybody remembers that month, that was literally when the market was cratering and people were waiting on their statement to come in to know if they lost 30, 40% and couldn't get a hold of their
I
financial
got
advisor.
crushed in 2008.
At that time, at Banker's Life, you had to go and visit like 18 people a
Mm.
week. 18. So you're just like 6 appointments a day, just boom, boom, boom. And every single appointment. This was my first experience into the investment world
Mm.
because no longer was it about insurance. It was like, look at my statement from this company. Look at my statement. Look at my statement. My advisor won't answer. And just tears coming out of people in their 70s and their 80s.
Oh,
And it was awful. And but the ones that had these certain insurance products, which is an indexed annuity, were the only ones that weren't losing money, unless you had like a CD. But then banks were also having problems. So I had some people that were trying to get their CD or get their money out of the bank, and they had to wait on the FDIC for months to get that money. So I just got thrown into it right when it was such a crazy time. So all of those stories and experiences that really I didn't have a part of, other than just really caring and really trying to help these people, like, look, I'll call, let me help you, I'll help you. I learned so much in the first 6 months that I knew exactly
Yeah, I received no help. I remember feeling so
no.
helpless. Like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?
It was in those times, and I really think like God kind of like takes you through things so that he's preparing you for your career. And all of those things, what happened with my grandmother, what happened, um the fact that I was actually in it in time. Like what if I would have not got my license for 6 more months? I would have missed all of that experience. But because I was able to meet with so many people and have so many stories and learned through them, you learn from other people's mistakes, right? So I was learning from everybody else that I was around, like actual clients that I knew this is the business I need to build.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Convicted.
Very, very. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So then now when I'm like, oh, this, because, business is hard to build and there are challenges in every industry. But when you own your own company, there are extra challenges. And there are times where I'm like, you know, but I remember like, no, Mindy, this is what God called you to do. You're doing it.
It's so great.
I do it.
That's a blessing in and of itself.
So that's why it's Mindy Molina Investments and Insurance.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Mindy, in your journey as a financial planner, can you share a moment that really struck a chord with you personally, perhaps the realization or experience that fundamentally shaped how you guide others in managing their finances?
Well, definitely that story. I think that for me, you like there's so many courses you can take. There are so many like certifications. There's all of these things that you can do. But one of the things that I will say that I have learned the absolute most from that has shaped my style or my method of preparing people for retirement is because of all the experiences of other people. So I actually started doing where I videoed a lot of my clients and really letting them tell their story, their retirement story, right? This is how I retired. This is what I did that I am so thankful I did. This is what I wish I wouldn't have done, or that was a waste of time for me. This didn't work. Because I believe those stories, like when you have someone that's 85 that's been retired for 35 years, and then you have someone who's 50 and thinking, how am I going to not run out of
Right.
money? This is how we learn. We learn from each other. And I have learned more by having, I mean, thousands of people. If I sit down and figure out how many interviews I've done with retirees, we're talking 2,000 or more. So
Wow.
that is so powerful. There's so much
Yeah, there
information in
is.
that's real life. And so yeah,
And I think that you said, to me, the fact that you care so much, that is so big in my world.
thanks.
I just don't understand how you go into business and not have that, but so many people don't, and it comes
Yeah.
across all the time. But when you find that person that
Yeah.
does, it really means an awful lot. Um, as someone deeply, by the way, my father's 92,
Yeah.
and I have an uncle 96.
Wow.
So I'm
And they
starting,
probably both say, I didn't think I'd live this long.
and they still can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then,
It's
you know, how did I
crazy.
get here? And my dad's always, I could still mop the floor up with that guy. He still thinks he can
Yes.
take me,
It's
but and
it's
thankfully
incredible.
and I was out at the ranch, my avocado grove. My uncle over Christmas, he was walking out there with me. We were digging trenches,
Yeah.
and he's right there.
Quality of
It's like,
life. They
gosh,
still have quality of life. I have two ladies that are and I forget how old they are because some of my clients, like, I started working with them when they were in their early 70s, and now they're in their mid 80s, like 85, 86. These Both of these women are in their mid 80s. They are traveling the world.
oh, how
When like
awesome!
30-day cruises. The one is about to go on a full around the world cruise. Like, they are full throttle.
That's so cool. I
It's
would love
amazing.
that life.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk. As someone deeply immersed in the world of finances, what's your take on how we can make learning about money more engaging and accessible, especially for younger folks? And actually, I'm not even sure if it's for younger folks. We don't make it. It's like one of life's deals. It's how you get through
Yeah,
life.
the younger generation is really fortunate because they have access to so much information and even like quick knowledge. Even as an author, I am a get to the point personality, right? Like, I don't want to watch an hour long show to learn 2 minutes of something if I'm learning. So and I think that because the younger generation, social media, everything, all the reels, the TikToks, the stuff is such quick bites of
Yep.
information that they're really absorbing it. And they're also, they have access to all these apps. It's so easy to invest now. One of the things that, so from the younger side, I don't have any limits. Most advisors, or even like if I talk to other advisors, they're like, you just, like, you don't have like, I won't talk to anybody if they don't have $1 million. Well, good for you. That's not my, that's just not me. That would be me doing this for me and not God. How am I going to tell someone when it's so easy to open an account? Hey, I only have $4,000, but I'd really like to start investing. Good. Because you're young and you want to start investing now, learn how to do it. So it takes me 20 minutes of time to get them set up and get them started. And now you are in, you just, like, what is it? You give a man a fish or you teach him to fish.
Right.
This is the difference. So now this person, I wish somebody would have done that for me when I was that
No
age.
kidding.
Right. So it's a matter of time. If there comes a time where I don't have the time to do it, then guess what? I got Frank. I have other advisors that'll take care of them. But getting people started, I'm never going to just like sweep that out the door because it doesn't pay me enough. That's that's silly mindset. But but on the flip side, you have people with millions of dollars and they don't know anything about retirement. They're so, like, it's overwhelming. Like I said, it's a new world of now of a whole new language when you're talking about, how can you take, like, your required minimum distributions? How's that actually going to impact you when you're in your 70s? How is long-term care going to get paid for? God forbid something happens to you. And 2 out of 3 people, if you live to be 65 years old, then 2 out of 3, that's like the majority, are going to need some sort of care. People worry about these things. The other thing is just running out of money. Is Social Security going to keep up with inflation? Are you still, if you can live the lifestyle you're living today, are you going to be able to live that way when you're in your 80s and you want to travel the world? Planning for that.
I mean, I was reading something the other day. It was, if you make it past 63, how amazingly blessed you are.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that's scary. It's coming.
I
It's
know.
quick.
And it's so young.
And
We're making it young. But when Social Security came out, which was not that long ago, like what, the 60s, I think? I have no idea. Don't quote me on that. But the it was an old age benefit. Social Security wasn't really like retirement income. It was actually like, kind of like a long-term care benefit.
and it was 50, 55? Or was it always
I
65?
think it was in 60s. We could look it up. No, it was like 62. But you were supposed to be on your way out, right? So if you lived to be that old, then someone needed to be taking care of you. You were going to need a little money.
Oh, it's so crazy
And
to
now
think
it's like,
about.
no, we might work a few more years. People are living longer, healthier lives,
Yep.
which is
The
awesome.
more active they are, I think the better off they are.
Someone passing away or dying, if you're a retirement planner, like, okay, that's easy. Just like life insurance is easy, right? If legacy even matters to you. But it's the ones that don't die. That's where the money matters. When you don't die, the money matters more.
Right. And then most people don't like to have that discussion, right?
Well, we want to just live along. And I am all about, like, I like to have fun. So a well-rounded, balanced life is important to me. I love to see people retire early. I love to see people spend money in retirement. Permission to spend. That is like, let's go.
Better
Okay.
make a lot of money.
Yeah, but that it would be, because there is that advisor mentality. It's like, keep the money in this account so that I can earn fees off of it. No, like, there's ways to plan, and if legacy is important for you, you can strategize. There's all these ways that we can try to make it work, and that's what is fun for me. So when I
Cool.
sit with someone and I'm like, okay, we do a really, really in-depth expense plan. Like, our process is so involved, but so simple. Like I told you, I like to get to the point. So I have a very systematic approach that I've developed over the years by, this is what works. So this is how I'm going to lead you through this process, and really just lead you through the promised land of retirement, right? Help you get there. That's why I say my podcast was Invest to Retire. Like, don't just invest to retire. Have a plan,
That's cool.
right?
Yeah, cool. Um, life is full of surprises, some of which can have significant financial implications. How do you help your clients build up their financial resilience so they're prepared for whatever comes their way, which is what we've kind of been describing?
Insurance products, but also, you know, having got thrown to the wolves during the '08, during that financial crisis, and seeing how it affects people. Because,
Mm.
they say, oh, it's a paper loss. Well, if you're 40, yeah, it's a paper loss. But what if you're 67? What if you are about to retire next year? You want to retire in 6 months. It's not a paper loss. Okay. It is a loss of it is affecting your life,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is serious. So these things really, really matter to me. And I take them very, very serious because I have physically witnessed what it does to people. And I'll tell you a story. It was Thanksgiving. It was 2008. All right. So November 25th. I had met with a couple that were from Kansas. And at this time, I was not an investment person. I wasn't even licensed. Wasn't even securities licensed. Okay. I was a 28-year-old girl with I was supposed to be out there like talking about Medicare and long-term care planning, not looking at financial statements of people, but I was the only one showing up. So this man, him and his wife had just got a penthouse down in on Palm Beach Island, not Palm Beach Island, but like Singer Island. Beautiful panoramic views. And coming from Indiana, I was like, wow, I'd never seen anything like it. They were so cute. And he was so excited to be there. And they just moved and their kids and grandkids were coming. This was such a special time. He pulls me aside and tears are falling down his cheeks because he's trying to secretly tell me I need help. That he gave me a statement. He had lost 40%. He was, I can't afford this. I cannot tell my wife or my family. Like, I've moved us here. I've done this to us. And
Oh,
I'm like, I'll help you. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I know. See how this affects you. This for you is a story. I was there. And it gets worse. Thanksgiving, I'm making the turkey, having a good time. My phone rings and it's him. And I am like, nobody calls on Thanksgiving, right? I answer and it's his wife. He had a heart attack
no.
and that was it. He died.
Oh,
So that's not a paper loss. So when I hear financial advisors say that, I get angry, right? Like, it affects me. And so when you say like your heart is in it, it's like, yeah, guess what? Because God has exposed me to some things that made me this passionate.
my life changed. This is blow your mind. Thanksgiving 2008.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
it did financially.
Well, you're having a day.
I had invested in, my avocado grove, a couple homes, cars, all the stuff, and life was so good. And then suddenly it was over. And
Yeah.
I had,
It changed a lot of people's lives. It
yeah, it
really
did
did.
really quickly
And
for me.
so for me, for my age, okay, when I was graduating college, it was the dot-com bubble burst. There was Enron was happening. All these bad things were happening. All my friends that graduated the year before me were getting laid off. Getting like this dream job out of college was no longer an option. Everything was falling apart. I couldn't like everything I had worked for was just kind of I was at a dead end that I wasn't expecting. And it was because of the stock market and what was going on during that time. And then, so now I'm like 21, 22 years old. So now, then things started turning around and we had this, run up. And I was doing awesome. My brother and I were flipping houses. So I would finance the houses. I had a great job. I would make the money. I'd supply the funds and then he would flip the house and we were killing it, doing awesome. Then 2007 rolls around and I said to him, because I was in the industry, like, just wait. We were going to buy a duplex. And I was like, let's just wait 6 months. Let's just sit on the money for 6 months and see what happens. After 6 months, if everything's okay, great. It was the best decision that I made. And I was 26 years old. And so we waited. And then guess what happened? Everything was just, you could
No
see it.
kidding.
It was happening, but we didn't own any properties. And then I ended up moving to Florida. But these experiences so have like my personal life, because of what I've experienced, both of those two financial crises in my 20s, then going through '08 again has made me believe that it can happen again. There are some people, kids
No,
that are
it
younger
can.
than me, that were too young to understand what was happening in 2008, right? They've been enjoying this ride. They're a little naive to the realities of it. So it's like too risk, too much risk, too much risk, too much risk. And then I think the older generation is become numb to it. They're still like kind of desensitized a little bit. It's like, yeah, whatever, it'll come back. But I just don't feel that way. I feel like you have to plan. If we plan for it and it doesn't happen, great. But if we have a financial plan that says, hey, you're going to be retired for maybe 30 years, do you think there's going to be a financial crisis in that amount of time? Do you think there might be a time when the market falls 40%? How will it affect you? I can show you. And the software I've developed shows you how it will affect you. It doesn't mean that you can't be in the market. It just means if that were to happen, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And it can.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's any possible way that it won't. It feels worse now than it did in 2008 when it did
I
happen,
know.
right?
Yeah, and the thing with it is because of technology, the market moves so fast now too. It's always trying to be a step ahead. And I have 14 money managers that are like, I'm not a what I call DIY and money manager. I don't do the trades. I do the planning and I outsource all the trading. Why? Because no one should never not be behind the wheel. So I want my traders to, that's all they do. They don't take phone calls. They don't do interviews. They're not doing anything else. They're not making plans. They are trading.
Hmm.
They're analysts. That's all they do. And so I have 14 different teams around the country that's all they do all day. And they're only accessible through advisors like me that are independent that can, hire them to do that. We outsource that. So that's like in the independent world, that's a very common like format.
How do people get a hold of you?
Go online. I'm easy to find if you look my name up, Mindy, but it's Mindy with an IE. I'm all over the internet between books and radio shows and just, but our website, there's, they can go online. You can schedule an appointment right there. That's what we like. That's what we prefer is if you go to the website, mindymolina.com, and you can fill out one of our questionnaires. That kind of is a head start, but we do. One of the things is like the more being duly licensed, being a duly licensed fiduciary financial advisor like we are, we try to have access to everything that we can possibly, even if it's not like the greatest, there may be a time when you need it. So for example, like a toolbox. So if you go in your garage and you have all of these tools, the more tools that you have, yeah, you might not use this one all the time, but you have it for that one time
Yeah.
you need it. And that's what we like to have. And it doesn't mean that these are all bad tools. It's just finding the right, utilizing them correctly. Like you're not going to change your oil with a blender from the kitchen.
Definitely a farm girl.
Yeah.
It's so true,
It's
though.
so true.
I have a lot of these questions that kind of remind me they're going to run into each other. So tell me, you have that book next to you. What
Mhm.
what drove you to write a book, especially that book?
Well, definitely. The thing about spiritual stuff, it's like spiritual. I just was so convicted. I mean, God, like, this is what I felt like He wanted me to do. And I live a pretty, quote unquote, good life. Like, God's not tapping me on the shoulder all the time. It just happened. Like, you have to do this. And so I really didn't know where I was going to go with it. Like, I'd never written a book before. And there was a lot of, I don't have time for that. This is what I kind of did during my maternity leave. But then what I knew is that I was going to write 10 like short messages essentially. So I did that. And then when I got those done, then I realized, wait, I do have a book, because I really didn't think that they connected. I was just going with what message was on my heart, and I would just write and then move on. So then I realized they do connect. And then I kind of was around with it in my mind. We were driving down the road one day and my friend said to me, well, this guy was out there with the big sign. He had like a big sign. And we were both kind of like, oh, chit chatting about it. And what would your sign say? Like, if you were going to sit on the
Mm.
side of the road with a big message, what would it say? And without me thinking, I spoke the words, God loves you and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And it was like immediately he was telling me, this is the book. I went home immediately and was like, this is the theme of the whole book.
Wow.
And I had a book. And then the publisher, like all of that just kind of happened. And it was always this drug out kind of, yeah, whatever thing that I was doing on the side. That was never like like right now, my 2 other books, I was very intent with. I knew exactly what I was writing and what I was doing. With this, I don't know what it was. And but God did. And this book I think is so powerful for someone that doesn't like, this is a really good starter point. And then moving into the Bible, there's a lot of scripture in it. But it kind of walks you through the scripture to kind of help you understand how to apply it. It ended up of all the things, because again, this was just like this whatever project that was going on. It released on Good Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so. I was like, wow, like maybe God does have His hand in this, And but that was it. That project was done. I have my babies. I've been raising them, and I'm a real full life person. I'm not a materialistic person. I like to use money to live a better life. Like that's how I see it. And so money is like a part of my life. It's a huge part. It's my career, but I don't have a attachment to it in that way. I like to see it used for good living in life. And so because of that, something unique about me as a mom is when my second son was born, I said, that's it. I'm not taking any more clients. I only worked off referrals. I did no prospecting. I did no marketing. I did nothing. I provided the care that I needed to provide to my clients that I had. And because I felt like I can't take care of everyone, right? And I'm not going to be able to give them the quality that they deserve being clients, people that I bring on, and still, because when a baby's sick, as the mom, you're just sorry. So whoever else you've made plans with is going to suffer. And I realized that in my first year as a mother. And I said, that's it. I can't do this to people. So I just kept my clients. They all knew referrals are all I'm going to do. And I did that until my second son went to kindergarten. So that was awesome. I'm really glad I made that decision because it'll allow me to be there for the people that I had obligated myself to, including my kids and the clients that I had. And I never got overwhelmed, and I was able to have a good life, a good quality of life. So this industry has been really good to me in that way. And I'm very informal, and my clients are like my family. Like they're, are you going to bring the baby next time? Like they just, we're very, very close and involved with each other because I like that. That makes me happy. That makes me happier than having more and more and more money. So that makes me love what I do. But then once he went to kindergarten, so now he's in first grade. We're about to finish first grade. It has been, a real big growth focus. So I've been able to focus a lot more on my career with the kids in school all day. But I don't regret I don't think I missed out.
Cool. So what's next for you? Another book?
Yeah, I got 2 books coming out probably this year. One is another religious book. It's called Born to Fight. And
does that come from back on the farm where your parents raised you? Christ in the house, or?
Oh yeah, but we weren't like, my dad wasn't like church every Sunday and stuff like that. They are all believers, but not what you would call like practicing religiously. Then so this next book, Born to Fight, I have 3 brothers, and we're all very, very close. And my one brother was diagnosed at 41 breast cancer. So we have that gene in our family that is like the BRCA gene, and he's been fighting that fight. So we grew up, out in the country. If you went out on Saturday night, there was always going to be like a fist fight. That's just every bar. They're like, I would just gather the coats and keys and get the boys, like make sure nobody goes to jail or the hospital. Just that's how it was growing up. And so learning to fight was a priority for my dad. Like we had the like straw punching bags in the barn and stuff. So, it's kind of a play off of that. So instead of chapters, there's 10 rounds in the book. Each chapter is about ways to fight in the world, not physically, but spiritually. How do we overcome some of the things like fighting for your kids, trying to protect them from all the things? Like, how do I not let my kids grow up to be, addicts or end up in prison or things that because you see amazing families. I've seen it, like amazing families. And then it's like, what happened? What happened? Then fighting cancer. So my brother has cancer, like fighting for your health, fighting for your sanity, fighting for just all of these things. And it's like, what does the Bible say about it? And that's what this book is all about. So I just finished that book.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's called Born to Fight, and that'll be coming out this year. And then the second book that I am 90% done with, I have not titled yet, so you can help me with that. And I'm calling it maybe like American Defunders. So, or Not My Money. Those are kind of the two I'm playing with. But what it is about, it's actually a financial book. It's not like a religious book. It's about our industry from a financial standpoint. Where's the money, and how are they using that money in ways that are politically driven? Okay, so meaning that there are like Vanguard, BlackRock, there are these huge, conglomerates that own the majority of American money. Like we literally are investing it. We are literally giving it to them. And then they have it. They are reaping the rewards of that, and they're using it to fuel the fight that we're fighting. It's like if I said to you, and this is not like a political question, but if I said, are you for funding the war in Ukraine? Yes or no? Well, okay, you would have an answer. Yes, fund the war. No, don't fund the war. With your investments, there's the exact same question. Are you for funding, wokeism, or are you for funding, non-wokeism? There's an answer. There's a story. Your answer, yes or no, is in your portfolio.
I'm conservative.
Yes. Okay. So, but in your investments, are you? Your investments. So somebody who's like looking at their financial statement, where's that money going? By the way, it's your money, and you are either funding it or you're not. And that's what the book is about.
It's interesting.
So I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I'm almost done. And I've been working to create an investment strategy that says, no, we're not funding it. You can be neutral. You could say, I'm not going to be investing in any company that, like, for example, Peloton. Okay, Peloton versus Echelon. Two different companies with two different mindsets. Whose stock are you going to own, basically? Like, so these ideas of how are you investing your money? Because it does matter. And if you read the book and you see the statistics, you'd be shocked that the American workers who are out there, the middle-class Americans who are investing in their 401ks, who are welding every day, who are working in the manufacturing companies that have conservative values that are trying to protect their children, are also funding the war against them.
It's crazy, right? And nobody knows.
They're going to know if I make them aware. And I'm not the only one. Vivek is really pushing for that, if you watch any of his stuff. And then there's another advisor that I found in the Midwest that I'm kind of trying to connect with that has a platform too. There's not that many, and which is shocking to me. But how do we know? We don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And
right.
So that's why I'm writing the book, and that's why I want to create a message awareness platform for that. Just to say, look at your statement. If it says X, Y, and Z, you voted yes. Move it away.
How's that going to work with that regulated business? You're gonna get hit up on that one, I bet.
Are you going to interview me if I'm in prison?
Yeah. Yes, I'll come over. Hi.
I know it's awful, but you know that you're asking that for a very, very good reason. Like, yeah, it's going to be a big problem. So I'm going to jump through those hoops, but I'm not trying to do anything illegal or out of the boundaries.
Facts are friends. You're stating them.
Yeah, and I'll be all about getting the approvals that I need. It's just that you have to be with leaders that are willing to go to the line and say, hey, we want to do this. How can we make it work? And right now, having those leaders, because I do have a corporate structure, even as an independent, I have a team, Aegis Wealth Management, that runs my compliance. And to take all of that on myself is like, I don't want to, because then it's more time that I can't spend building awareness, doing that stuff, right? Like doing this. So I just have to get the right team in place if it becomes a problem. I'm working on my team now to help them. Yeah, it's going to be okay.
All this stuff goes away. What do you do for fun?
I love to surf. I love to fish. I love to travel. So I'm a big travel junkie. I love to see the world. And when I graduated high school, back then we did, I don't know if they do it now, but we had these big memory books, girls especially, like just giant book with all of your pictures and everything in it. And when you open mine, it says, what do you want to do with your life? And in big, I wrote travel the world. And I've done it. I'm just still doing that. But I love to surf. I love the ocean.
I love the ocean too.
Yeah. And I love my kids. It's anything with them is good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
This has been fun. How can people get a hold of you?
You can go to www.mindie, M-I-N-D-I-E, Molina, MOLINA.com, MindyMolina.com. You can find me on any search engine, or you could call the office, 772-362-5872.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. This is fun. We'll do it again soon.
Absolutely.
All right.